So my father, I'm now 41, and I lost my father when I was 21 in a car accident 3 days before Christmas on his way to pick me up from university. The car crashed on black ice, so no one else involved. It was just a freak accident. And then my mother died about 4 years ago. She had a huge stroke, which was, there was nothing we could do. It was a 15 minutes and then she was gone, type of thing. So yes, I was 38 when I lost my mum. So both very quick and very sudden, yes, yeah. So I think when I was 21, my father, because he died in such a shock circumstances, that I've got two elder brothers, one who's 4 years older than me, one who's 15 months older. And when my dad died, I was up at university that day. My other brother was in London, and my middle brother was at home with my mum. And when it happened, we were all spread out everywhere, and I didn't get back home until sort of 6 or 7 hours after it happened, and was notified by the police. So it was a policeman coming to the door to tell me that I'd lost my dad, and for hours we didn't know whether he was alive. They didn't have that information coming through, so it was waiting to find out. And I was on my own. I was on my own at university because it was Christmas holidays, so there was no one else in the house. And then when we got back, I think it was such a shock to my mum that it was devastating to her and to everybody. But we just didn't talk about it. We just got on with the arrangements. We got on with the funeral, and then had the funeral after Christmas in the January, and then we went back to university, and that was it. And there was nothing discussed. So my brother went back off to London. My other brother actually was in Manchester with me, so I had one brother up there. And we weren't given any advice about how to deal with it, really. My mum really struggled to deal with it, so it wasn't discussed as a family. And that was it. Life just went on. And it was just, it was really difficult. Roll on however many years, when I was 38 and my mum died, it was a very different story. We were all together. We all met at the hospital when we got the phone call to say that she'd had a stroke, and we all got there, and we all dealt with everything together with the consultant. So when the consultant said to us, "Do you want to go and see her?" we said, "Not until we're all here. We've got to do this all together." So whether it be, saying yes, switch off the machines, or yes, organ donation, or yes, this is what we'll do for funeral plans and everything like that. We did it together as the three of us. Whereas when I was 21, it wasn't. It was very, very much we were all on our own trying to scramble something together. So it was very different experience. Very different. It has always been there. It's always been this there's always been an elephant in the room. Whenever we've got together at Christmas or anything like that, we've never spoken about it. We've spoken about my dad, we just never spoken about the day. And we didn't know where neither of us knew what the other one has experienced during that grief period, or the 20 years. And actually it wasn't until I had a night with my brother at his and his wife, and his wife could see the pain that was happening in the family, that we hadn't discussed it. And she organised a nice dinner and a few bottles of wine. And my brother and I managed to talk about it, and we were both shocked about each other's experience. And it was as if we were totally different people. We never knew each other. It was a real struggle for him. He couldn't see pictures of my father, and he couldn't. It was really hard. He was 25, and he then suddenly became, the head of the family, as it were, I suppose, and tried to deal with it. And it's quite shocking, actually, how much pressure was put on him, I think, as the eldest of the family. But I think we sort of got to a point where, actually after my mother died, I got to a point where I was going through, as I was saying, I was going through taking the kids to school one day, and I was walking through the garage trying to put a box of paints, children's paints, up on the top shelf. And as I did it, I dropped the entire lot all on the floor. Paint went everywhere, and I went crazy. I was really cross, I was really angry. I blamed the kids, which wasn't fair because it wasn't anything to do with them. I got them to school and I got home and I just thought, enough is enough. There's something happening that I haven't dealt with. And I think I've got some anger issues about, I'm angry about the entire situation. The fact that I have, no father at 21, my children don't have a grandfather. I now don't have a mother, my children now don't have a granny. And I needed to talk to someone. I needed to find out what it was that was why I was hurting so much. I needed to talk to someone about it. I went on good old Google and I Googled therapists in my area, and I got a list. There's a list of registered therapists come up, and there's hundreds of them. And there was a website, I can't remember what website I went onto, but there was a website that had pictures of therapists and then all their qualifications. I literally went through the pictures. I was very sort of blunt about it. No, you don't look so good. Yes, you look quite good. Actually, I quite like you. And I found this lady near me and just emailed her and said, I think I need to speak to somebody. So we went along. And I think I saw her for probably about 5 months in total, every week for 5 months. So it's quite an expensive outlay, but it really helped me. I think it just helped me just talk to somebody who could put some clarity to it and say, it's not your fault this has happened. Things happen and perhaps this is the reason why, and it really did help, really did. With my father, I phoned him up that day. I'd been snowboarding for the week and with the university, and I'd come back, and typical student, phoned my dad up, said, can you come pick me up? I've got my snowboard, I've got all my kit, I don't want to leave it here, I live in Fallowfield, you never know what might happen to it. And he said, oh, can you get the train? I said, oh, come on, I can't bear the train. Can you help me? I've got all my kit. So he did. And then, that's what happened. And I blamed myself for a long time. And I think I blamed myself because when I got back, my mum couldn't talk to me. She didn't talk to me on the phone when it had happened. My uncle phoned up and said, your mum can't come to the phone at the moment. And I was angry about that, and I felt it's because of what I've done. It's my fault that this has happened. And for years I spent that whole time thinking it's my fault that my children don't have a grandfather. It's my fault that my nieces and nephews don't have a grandfather, that my brothers don't have a father anymore. I spent years agonising over it. And it doesn't matter how many people say to you, friends, husband, it's not your fault. When you haven't heard that from your mother and your brothers, it was difficult. But then I hadn't said to them, this is how I'm feeling, because it wasn't really, we just didn't talk about it. So talking to somebody neutral, and for her to put into perspective. And it was really interesting, the things she said. Things like 100%, your mother 100% won't have gone, it's absolutely, won't have blamed you. She said there will be a smidgen of amount that probably would have gone, oh, if it wasn't for you. And that's human nature, that's a human, feeling. But she said, the fact is that she will have thought that, but she won't have blamed you at the end of the day. And we went right back. We didn't just go through my father from the start when my father died. We went right back to, the first time I experienced something difficult in my life. And that was another bereavement. It was a school friend of mine at the time when I was 14, and she died. She was knocked off a bike. So I'd had sort of trauma through my life that I hadn't dealt with. So going to see her, I think I just needed to, really offload. Well, two of my very good friends have lost their fathers, and I think you talk to your friends all the time about it, but I think there's I don't think for me personally that I talk to them anyway, you know, they're friends, but I think I needed to get to the underlying issue, and that was I needed somebody with experience and that sort of the qualification to be able to dig that out of me, because I don't think that's the sort of thing friends can do. Yeah, I still have some weird little things that I carry. So I have a weird phone phobia where I find it very, very difficult to phone people that I know, not people that I don't know. I can phone them any day of the week, but people that I do know who I haven't spoken to for a while. And speaking to my therapist about it, she thinks it's because, and I already sort of made the conclusion myself as well, was that connected to my dad dying is that phone call that I made, and then the next time I hear that he's, you know, had an accident and he's died, and so I think that I have that phobia is that thought of phoning somebody and getting some terrible news, and I've got to work on that. That's something I've got to do, and I couldn't that couldn't be dealt with in therapy. I tried, but actually I think it's deeper. I think it, you know, I've got to work on it. But texting and messaging doesn't help me. But so I do tend to text somebody before I phone them, so that they know I'm expecting a call. So yeah.